Sunny Leone has often been at the receiving end of criticism, especially with regard to her professional career or her earlier profession. This time, taking a fresh dig at Sunny Leone and an advertisement of a condom featuring Sunny Leone, the National Secretary of the Communist Party of India, Atul Anjan, has said that ads such as those are responsible for the rising instances of rape in this country. However, as outrage over his comments grew, Atul Anjan offered a half-hearted clarification. Let's listen into what Atul Anjan initially said and his clarification of sorts.
ऐसे लोगों को सरकारी विज्ञापन पर दिखाना और प्राइवेट चैनल पर दिखाना, इस पर प्रतिबंध लगना चाहिए। इसकी वजह से भी रेप के प्रति लोगों का उन्माद पैदा होता है।
Let them propagate such type of advertisement. Let them show in their house, in their family. But I do not stand with such type of advertisement. I oppose. There's nothing which I have said against the dignity of the women.
India Today's Maha Siddiqui spoke to some working women to find out their opinion on perhaps what they thought of what Atul Anjan had said. Do they agree with the senior left leader? Let's listen into reactions that are pouring in.
Regressive comments from our leaders are not new, but when it comes from a leftist, it sure raises eyebrows. Atul Anjan's comments on Sunny Leone have stirred a controversy. I have with me some of my colleagues here to express their views on what Atul Anjan has said and whether they actually do believe that condom ads can trigger rapes. First to you, Archana, do you think what Atul Anjan said, makes any sense at all?
I think it exposes his feudal mindset, and not just his, but a lot of our politicians which endorse this mindset, like Mulayam Singh once said that. I think at a time when the entire world is fighting against AIDS and a lot of sexual diseases, and I think one of the most important things that can cure it is a condom. So a politician, and a very seasoned politician like Atul Anjan, making such an obnoxious remark just goes on to expose the mindset of our politicians.
And even though he's apologized, he says he's not going to take back his comment because he does believe that ads like these trigger rapes.
It does in the first place, but if we just look at the very basic problem here, it's not condoms or it's not the advertisements. The fact that he's offended and he needs to ban it, that's ridiculous. If I do not like anything, it again comes to that same argument where if I don't like anything, I need to ban that same thing. Why should I am offended by him? Why don't we ban him then? So that is what we come back to. And then if we go again to the secondary question, that yeah, it is misogynist, that it is a condom ad, it is disseminating a lot of information among people. We cannot go back to our 90s age where we show a chhata and this is how we show how safe sex is done.
Yes, so one has to be more realistic, is what you also believe as far as advertising also goes.
Absolutely, and his comment coming from him tells us how misogynist our netas are, and I think it clearly talks about his temperament, and he should be educating people so that he should be educating people against all these things while he's coming up with such statements which is going to motivate people's mind in a different manner and take this on a different track altogether. So such a statement from a political person is not at all acceptable. He should come straight forward and accept his mistake and say that whatever he said is completely wrong, and such mistake should not be.
So there you have it, women not taking kindly to the comment made by Atul Anjan. In New Delhi, this is Maha Siddiqui for India Today.
So CPI leader Atul Anjan, who says Sunny Leone's condom ad will cause more rapes, is he justified in saying so? Are there any statistics to prove his contention? He of course hasn't apologized, he hasn't regretted. All he said was, if people want to show it on TV, they are free to do so in their own homes. He will continue to oppose it. Madhu Kishwar joins me on the broadcast. She is a very well-known women's rights activist. Madhu Kishwar, your take on what Atul Anjan has said?
There's no doubt. There can't be two opinions on the idiocy of the comment, justifying or explaining away rape as a product of sexy ads. I certainly think the man needs to be taken to task. It's just not done. However, I think our ad industry also needs a few raps on their knuckles Too many ads are lurid. They're needlessly obscene. For example, Sunny Leone ad on pan masala.
Okay.
It's like the ad for a porn film. And I really think that ads need to be done in good taste and in the name of freedom and women's rights. I'm not saying ban them, but certainly build an opinion. Let's not justify all kinds of obscenity that has flooded the media, including porn, semi-porn, and say this is freedom. We should never allow politicians to get away with irresponsible statements. They certainly need to be taken to task. But on the other hand, I think the ad industry, the media, also needs to be responsible. There are a lot of things so offensive, you know. So many of my colleagues say that it's difficult to sit and watch TV sometimes with their children because the kind of ads that come.
Well, that's one of the points that Atul Anjan raised, and you know, you'd be surprised that Atul Anjan is not the only one, and you know, the similar opinions, Madhu Kishwar, coming from opposite ends of the spectrum. You have Atul Anjan of the CPI on one side, and you have BJP's Manoj Tiwari on the other side. And let's just quickly get you what BJP leader Manoj Tiwari is saying. He's actually partially supporting Atul Anjan, and those are his exact words. He says, I partially agree with Atul Anjan. And then it's in Hindi that he says, अगर हम ऐसी चीजों का प्रचार कर रहे हैं जिनसे जनसंख्या नियंत्रण होता है, which means if we are advertising condoms, इसके लिए चरित्रवान लोगों की खोज होनी चाहिए. People with good character should be taken, not a porn star. I want to quickly bring in Kamaljeet Kaur Sandhu for more on this statement. Kamal, take us through the details of what Manoj Tiwari of the BJP is saying.
Absolutely judgmental, absolutely regressive, and we've seen all women activists from one end of the spectrum to the other, all slamming the comment. And yes, it's not just about Atul Anjan himself. Remember the NFIW, which is a women wing of the left party, as well as IDUA, slamming Atul Anjan for his comments. But what is unlikely is that he is getting support from people like Manoj Tiwari. And remember, Manoj Tiwari comes from a film industry, comes from an advertising industry, so he is very much a part of that. And to make a judgmental remark at that, one is obviously we've spoken to women across spectrum, and they've been saying all along that this cannot justify any sort of an act of rape, saying an advertisement of any kind is obviously promoting an act of rape. So yes, women activists coming out and slamming this, but we haven't seen an apology coming from either of the gentlemen.
Stay with me for a moment. We've got Manoj Tiwari's reaction. Let's quickly listen into Manoj Tiwari.
जी का जो बयान है उससे मैं आंशिक रूप से सहमत हूँ. रेप तो अलग भी रुकना चाहिए, निश्चित रूप से उस पर सज़ा कठोर होनी चाहिए. सनी लियोनी एक पॉर्न स्टार हैं और निश्चित रूप से वैसे लोगों से ये प्रचार कराना टीवी पर, उसको देखते हुए घर का हर व्यक्ति शर्मिंदा होता है. हम भी देखते हैं तो शर्म आ जाती है. तो मैं चाहता हूँ कि अतुल अंजान के काफ़ी बातों को गौर से सुनना चाहिए और उसके अनुसार इस देश के हर व्यक्ति को निर्णय लेना चाहिए.
Madhu Kishwar, you know, Manoj Tiwari is taking it to another extreme. He has an issue with Sunny Leone advertising a condom. How can that be justified?
See, why are you using? I think the point that he's making is, why are you using Sunny Leone?
Why not?
For a condom ad? No, I'm not saying why not. I do not wish to impose bans. I'm not saying that. The point that I'm trying to make is, whether it's pan masala or it's wall paint, you bring in Sunny Leone and it becomes like soft porn. That's the way ads are going. And I'm not just objecting. You know, there was a time and day, don't forget, in 1986, feminists ran a very strong campaign to ban the so-called obscene portrayal of women in the media, indecent representation. This was a feminist initiative. And if you go by that law, then this ad would certainly qualify. I was against the ban at that time also. I didn't think the law was well advised. But the point that I'm trying to make is, at that time, feminists thought it was progressive to demand very stringent punitive action against so-called indecent representation of women, and they pushed for this law. The law is on the statute book. If you were to apply, and at that time I remember many of my feminist friends would go on painting, go around painting hoardings with black paint and stand outside cinema halls saying boycott this movie, ban this movie. At that time, that was politically fashionable.
No, but you know what is
Today,
happening
it's
here
become
is that our
politically-
politicians.
I'm saying-
No, I want to specifically stay on the subject. What both Manoj Tiwari and Atul Anjan are ending up doing, they are saying don't have people like Sunny Leone on TV. Whatever Sunny Leone may have done in the past, she's not doing that anymore. Why do they have an issue with Sunny Leone? That's the way it's coming out, ma'am.
I agree. I do not wish to get into Sunny Leone's past, what she's doing then or not. I'm therefore concentrating on media images, in advertising, in a lot of cinema, in film, and of course the internet. And the point that I'm trying to make is that they do present women as meat to be consumed, as sex objects who are forever inviting you to drool over them. And I'm saying there was a time feminists used to take offense at it.
Yes.
And I'm so surprised that suddenly we are beginning to call it. Why did feminists at that time invite a law against it? Please read the statutes of the Indecent Representation of Women's Act and
Okay.
find out how many of your media colleagues supported that campaign.
Okay,
And
I
suddenly
also
now
want to bring
we are saying
in-
even pornography is cool.
Yeah, I also want to bring in Shazia Ilmi, who joins me on the broadcast. Shazia Ilmi, you have Atul Anjan, who says you shouldn't show these condom ads, you shouldn't show Sunny Leone on TV, it encourages rape. And you have Manoj Tiwari of the BJP, who says, I partially agree, even if you want to propagate a condom ad, you shouldn't have a Sunny Leone doing it because the family is embarrassed watching it on TV.
No, we have a lot of concerns here. We are looking at population control, we are looking at family planning, we are looking at planning childbirth and all of that. But it has to be done with responsibility. And we must realize that in this country, where either you look at a woman as your mother or your sister or as an object of male desire, we have to realize there has to be a third place. So because I also feel that, you know, women just become objects of desire. They just get commodified constantly by these ads. And to this huge populace, and we're looking at people with little sex education, with little awareness, with absolutely no gender equity. We do see a bias, and of course Sunny Leone has a good time. She takes a lot of money, she comes to India and has everybody eating out of her hand. But just imagine what it does to average man and a woman on the streets. Because a woman is seen only as an object.
No, but do
Because
you
that's
agree
what
with
she is.
Atul Anjan? Do you agree with Atul Anjan that this encourages
There is
rape?
nothing else you could think of.
A Sunny
And
Leone
every
ad.
day women have to deal with what women like Sunny Leone have put them through. So I do have a problem with this constant objectification of women. I mean, a man could have been objectified in the same ad, but he's not. A woman is. She
Does
is
that
the hapless
does that
recipient
ad
of
encourage
all that
rape,
he,
as Atul Anjan says,
aspires to
Shazia
do.
Ilmi? Does
And
that ad
whenever
encourage
you titillate
rape?
the audience, you include the men in this voyeuristic kind of a game, you know, and it's almost like a Brechtian device, and you encourage men to look at women only as objects of desire.
And does that encourage rape? I mean, do you
Not
agree with
even
Atul
objects
Anjan
of this.
that an ad like this would encourage rape? Shazia?
Could you repeat that, please?
Shazia, do you agree
Yeah,
with
could you
Atul
repeat that,
Anjan? Do you agree
Gaurav, I lost you
with...
in
No,
the
just hear me out, Shazia. Do you agree with Atul Anjan that Sunny Leone in that ad of a condom encourages men to go out and rape women?
Well, I don't know whether I don't agree with that entirely. You know, I don't think an ad would make a man to rape a woman. But please, because maybe Atul Anjan ji, though he means well, does not know the difference between an act of passion and an act of power. Rape, I'm afraid, is not an act of passion, it's an act of power. It's a relationship that a prey has with a predator. So lust should be kept out of it. Yes, it makes men see women in a certain way. but men would not rape women. I mean, only because of an ad. So I think that reasoning and that demarcation has to be made.
Okay.
And believe you me, and yes, and if you study the rape, anatomy of rape, rape happens to regular women, sometimes even the premises of their own households. And you must also realize one thing, it happens to women by men known to them. And it happens to young girls and senior citizens and all kinds of people. So how can an ad make a difference there?
Okay,
in
but
fact,
Madhu Kishwar, your point is that there is merit in what both Atul Anjan...
dress up like Sunny Leone does, is least likely to get raped.
Okay, Madhu Kishwar, your take is that whatever Atul Anjan and Manoj Tiwari are saying, there is merit. Ads depict women in a certain light that could well encourage crimes against women. Is that your take, Madhu Kishwar?
My take is that we actually need to go beyond for versus against mode of thinking. We need dignity in ads. Some of our, forget rape for a minute, I don't think the link with rape is at all justifiable. Even if a woman is walking around naked, no man has a right to rape her. So that's the bottom line. I don't wish to find any justifications for rape. So please let's get that clear. Coming then to attitude towards women. Women as objects of consumption. Women as objects not even of desire but lust. And to be enjoyed and discarded. And that's what this, the message also comes. It's not really so much family planning, but it's a certain kind of semi-pornographic message that's coming through ads like that. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to use Sunny Leone for that. The point that I'm trying to make is a family planning ad needs a very different kind of imagery.
Okay.
You wouldn't require a Sunny Leone for it. You're communicating a very different message from that ad. And that's really where, the message is use and throw women like you do condoms. Use a condom and then, your sex can be as irresponsible as you want. It's about irresponsible sexual pleasure, not taking responsibility for it. So, but if you want to give the message of family planning, you would have a far more subtle way of dealing with the issue. This is not how you would portray a wife-husband relationship. So the point
stay with me, stay with me, Madhu Kishwar. Yes, Madhu Kishwar and Shazia, stay with me for a moment. I want to continue talking to both of you. I have to slip into a quick break here.